Good evening, everyone. We need to start the meeting. It's 6:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'll declare a quorum present. We have 4 elected officials at the table, and I know there's a 5th one in the building. So we have everyone here present. At this time, I'll set the agenda as published. If there's no objection, Commissioner Hefner.
Yes, I'd like to remove 8.2 under consent, unfinished business consent, and move that to unfinished business, first item.
Okay. We will be removing 8.2 from consent to unfinished business. All right. Any other call outs or objections? All right. Then the agenda will set as published minus the one change, 8.2 to unfinished business. If you are watching online and would like to follow along, the agenda is online on our city's website. If you're here in the audience, we have agendas in the wire baskets by the doors if you would like to follow along on this riveting meeting. Our next item is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. If our fire chief would be so kind to lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Thank you, sir. If you would pray with me, please. Dear God, thank you for your amazing power and work in our lives. Thank you for your goodness and for your blessing over all of us. Thank you for being in our presence tonight and your guidance for these elected city officials and city administrators. Thank you that you can bring hope through even the toughest times, strengthening us for your purposes. Thank you for your great love and care. Thank you for your mercy and grace. Thank you for being with the Martin family and the Giles family this past week during their time of loss. Thank you for the strength you gave Kenny as he glorified his mother and said goodbye. Thank you that you are always with us and will never leave us. Thank you for your incredible sacrifice so that we might have freedom and life. Forgive us when we don't thank you enough for who you are, for all you do, for all that you've given, and the glory glorifying you so richly deserve. Help us set our eyes and our hearts on you afresh. Renew our spirits. Fill this council with your peace and joy. We love you. We need you this day and every day. We give you praise and thanks, for you alone are worthy. In the name of the Lamb, amen. If you would stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief Luffman, thank you. Next item on our agenda is approval of minutes from the Board of Commissioners' regular scheduled meeting from January 24th. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor of the minutes as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes with a 5-0 vote on the minutes. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. If you are in the audience and would like to address the Board of Commissioners, this is your opportunity to address the board. You'll be recognized for 3 minutes. We ask for your name and address. Ask that you keep the comments on topics or on items discussing the city and not so much on personalities. If anybody would like to address the commission, now's your opportunity. Come forward to the podium and give your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you hear me okay? Yes, okay. My name is Byron Camp. I live at 537 Scout Drive here in Mount Juliet. I'm here to tell you about a meeting I went to last Tuesday evening. I attended the Wilson County EMA Commissioners meeting. I learned that the Wilson County Emergency Management Agency is literally in crisis. The WEMA director, Joey Cooper, said, and this is a quote from him, "We are bleeding EMTs and paramedics. We are circling the drain. Will not make it to July," which is the beginning of the new fiscal year. This is a quote from the director of WEMA. Director Cooper said the agency is down by 27 ambulance staff In addition, 35 more staff have applied for positions at agencies elsewhere. Cooper also said that the staff is stressed out by the situation, having worked monumental amounts of overtime, minimizing time off to rest and be with their families. They don't want to work any more overtime because they are stressed out. The staffing issue is critical. And when they are down in staff, stations within Wilson County are closed, which some are, which means fewer ambulances are in operation, which leads to longer response times for those who need immediate emergency medical help. With the number of WEMA staff actively looking to leave, the breaking point is near, which will have an impact on not only the citizens of Mount Juliet, but all the citizens of Wilson County. Now, just think of an emergency where they require 2 or more ambulances to go and handle that emergency. Where's the backup? Is there enough staff to back up here in Mount Juliet? As an example, if someone else needs an ambulance, this is seriously a life and death situation. The issue facing the county mayor and the county commissioners is lack of quality pay for the EMA staff. And they've been going on for months looking at some kind of a study to try and determine what the pay scale should be, and they're still looking at it, with all these folks leaving to go to other positions. This issue has not just surfaced. The issue has been known by the county mayor and county commissioners for months. Instead of recognizing and acting, they keep on kicking it down the road. And as I sat there at that meeting last Tuesday night, they were basically just kicking it down the road. However, they came up with one of Mount Juliet's commissioners, county commissioners came up with a suggestion, which supposedly I think the budget committee of the county is voting on tonight. So this is a failure of leadership across the board, putting citizens in jeopardy. It is obvious that change is needed, and it's needed now. My reason for being here tonight is a concerned citizen. And when I've talked about the ambulance issue before, and you've listened and you've helped. I'm going to commend Vice Mayor Justice for attending that meeting as well, and for speaking to the county commissioners with his concerns about where we are in relation to the ambulance issue. So I'm here to tell you, and I'm here to tell you as a citizen, I'm deeply concerned. And I'm here to tell you as a citizen, I feel obligated to make sure other people know that this is what's happening in our county, and that you, the city of Mount Juliet, is doing everything you can to help support our citizens. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for listening.
Yeah. Mr. Camp, thank you for attending that meeting and keeping us up to date on the information. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners? This is most likely your only opportunity tonight to address the board. We do not take comments on the items. All right, seeing none, we'll close citizen comments. We will move ahead with commissioner reports and comments. This time, I'll recognize Commissioner Hefner.
Oh, thank you. I'm up. Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things I want to mention tonight. It's been a couple. We missed the last one because of Valentine's Day. First of all, we'll start out by saying my heart, thoughts, and prayers are with Ukrainian citizens, what they're going through right now. I think it's devastating. It's supporting a blue and yellow tie to honor them. Also, thoughts and prayers to you, Mr. Martin, on your loss of your mother, and Mr. Giles. I understand he lost his mother as well. Also, this week marks second anniversary of the tornado that hit back on March 3rd. Please keep those in your thoughts and prayers as we pass another anniversary of that terrible event. There are still citizens in this community that were impacted by that tornado that are still dealing with the aftermaths, and not just physical rebuild, of their homes, but also the damages done to them psychologically. So so thoughts and prayers with them as we enter into the tornado season. Flooding continues to be a major problem in my district. When we have a significant rain event, I can almost guarantee my phone will ring and I'll get emails. I'm very much looking forward to Mr. Barlow's report on a much needed, in my opinion, stormwater utility. So very much looking forward to that, Mr. Barlow. So hopefully we'll be seeing that soon. The other thing I'm looking forward to in that regard is putting forth a measure, a new ordinance for the board to consider, and that's requiring builders to put up a letter of credit specifically for stormwater preventive measures when developers and builders are building homes. This letter of credit will ensure that at least 1 year after the home is built, that all measures, preventive measures for stormwater were put in place properly. And if not, the city has a right to pull that letter of credit and take appropriate measures. So be looking forward to seeing that come forward. As far as WEMA, that's just a disaster. I'm not sure how or why they got to in the position that they're in today, but I can tell you firsthand, they've known about this problem for over a year. I spoke with one of the commissioners that sits on that board, and she told me over a year ago that this was a major problem then, and it has only gotten worse. Why they have waited this long to fix it or to try to fix it, to me is a blatant and reckless disregard for human life, in my personal opinion. So I'm looking forward to working with, in any capacity, the county commissioners and WEMA to find out how, to figure out a good path forward there. But putting all the citizens of Mount Juliet at risk because of their disregard is unacceptable. On a positive note, Mayor, apologize for missing your State of the City address, but the short and the long of it is we're strong financially. The city is doing extremely well. And thankfully for the measures last year, we passed a pay raise increase. And I thank the Board of Commission for approving that in the budget. Otherwise, we would be in the position that Wilson County's in today had those measures not been put into effect last year. So I appreciate and thank the board for passing that last year. Just a couple more things, I promise. Shop local pays off, literally, it does. We had our first ever $2 million sales tax month, and that was in December of 2020, which is 11.9% increase over last year. And dollar for dollar also goes to support our school system. So keep shopping local. It works. It absolutely works. So on a personal note, I want to say happy birthday to my wife. I won't tell you how old she is. She would kill me if I did. Her birthday is coming up this Friday. She actually celebrates an entire month for her birthday. So happy birthday month, Cherie. I love you. I did sell my house on Fairview Knoll, closed on it at the end of January. I moved into Vintage Station North, so I'm living alongside the Waffle employees, I think was what a previous commissioner mentioned, but no, sorry. No, it's a great place to live. I do have a lot, secured a lot on Barrett Drive, and we'll be breaking ground to build our new house on Barrett here in the coming months. Thanks everybody for coming out to pack a cruiser. Food drive the other day. Appreciate everybody's efforts and contributions there. Warm weather, enjoy the warm weather. Spring break also means basketball, which is March Madness. I hope your brackets win and your team goes to the Final Four. So with all that, thank you. I conclude my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. At this point, we'll recognize Commissioner Mullally.
Thank you. Again, my sincerest condolences to Kenny and former Commissioner of District 3, Art Giles. They both lost their mother last week. And so my heart goes out to y'all. Tomorrow, I will be sending out my February newsletter. And if you're not signed up for email, you can do so on my website, jennifermullally.com. In it, I will also have information on the issues with WEMA. Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Byron, for coming out and speaking. Also, stormwater utility, which I'm very excited about. Have information on that. I did attend Mayor Manis's State of the City. He did a great speech and vision, and I've also got the links to that in my newsletter that's coming out tomorrow, in case you haven't seen it. And also I have a whole lot more in my newsletter. So if you don't sign up, you can see it. You can catch it on social media. I post on Facebook, Nextdoor, and Instagram. And also, again, my thoughts and prayers with the innocent people in Ukraine. And that is all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's recognize our Vice Mayor and District Commissioner, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, of course, I was quarantining with my daughter who had COVID, so I couldn't come, Kenny. Publicly want to make sure you understand how much I love you and how much I love your family. They are like my family and have been for 25, 30 years. And so I am so sorry for your mom passing, your mother, and my condolences. Also, just heard about the passing of Commissioner Art Giles' mom, and so our hearts, prayers, thoughts and prayers go out to him as well. I do want to commend Andy Barlow and the staff, the folks at Public Works. They have been inundated during this this flooding event. I'm gonna call it an event because it seems like it's lasted for weeks at this point, with phone calls from places that are showing signs of flooding as a result of the rain. And lots of phone calls, lots of videos, lots of pictures that I'm sending to him and his staff up there. And I'm amazed that he's able to actually have a conversation about pretty much every single one of those spots that I'm talking to him about. So, the fact that him, Shane, Matt, those guys up there, y'all are doing an amazing job. Thank you. And I am also, as Commissioner Mullally said, looking forward to the stormwater utility being created to the point where we can start addressing some of these on a bigger, more global level as far as the city goes. The audit findings. You've heard the buck stops here. And every time something is messed up, we look at Kenny Martin out of the side of out of the corner of our eyes like, dude, what are you doing? You messed up. And then we get news like we got tonight of the audit findings and the things that has happened throughout this city in every department here. Dana, unbelievably awesome job. But the fact is that if the buck stops there on everything that goes wrong, then the buck also needs to stop there every time something goes right. We have flourished in this city in bad times. Good times were great. Our bad times have been unbelievably awesome because of your leadership. And I want to thank you because it points to and gives us every indication when we're going, where's Kenny? Why is this a problem? And then all of a sudden this pops up and says, we are in amazing shape in our state. One of the top in our state is what I understand. That comes from leadership. So thank you for everything you've done. I'm incredibly proud of you. Okay. Now this may be a little bit longer. Our county commission and our county leadership has let us down. They've let us down in so many ways, it's unbelievable. In 2007, 2008, we were told, okay, put your big boy pants on and make a fire department. And we did. We went to Goodwill and got them big boy pants, but we put them on, and we've got one of the best fire departments in the state of Tennessee, bar none. That's all right. That's good. But they've not only let us down in the area of fire and EMS, but they've let us down in planning and so many other areas as well. And it needs to be pointed out. We've talked about it. Mr. Camp was at the meeting the other night. I was there. I was astounded. I listened as they decided that they were going to put a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound
And that was exactly what I told them it was. You know, they've got an entire department that is dying out there. And unfortunately, we are the recipients, or in this case, the victims of them it's just complete bad management. You know, you don't go all of a sudden you're 26, 27 employees down. That didn't happen overnight. It didn't. They're talking about an additional 35, Commissioner, Mr. Luffman, Chief Luffman, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's an additional 35 that have applications put in at other locations. And so we did the math today, excuse me. You're talking, look at potentially 44 to 45 employees that will leave WEMA, Wilson Emergency Management Agency, and go to other locations. Now, I think in all of that, what nobody said, that I think Director Cooper mentioned that he had hired 5 out of potentially losing 45. That puts the people that live in the city of Mount Juliet directly at risk. And it's unacceptable. So we have a resolution I think the mayor has put on tonight that we're going to be talking about, and we'll probably go a little farther into this, but I want to make sure you understand that we have not received one single refund to our county property tax dollars, although the level of service that we're getting has decreased over the last 12 years. So why are we, it's like going to Walmart and handing them $100 bill and walking out with an empty basket. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So be watching, because this commission is tired. I think we are probably in lockstep on this, if I'm not mistaken. We're tired of being taken advantage of in this end of the county. So we're going to be talking like this for a long time to come until they decide that they can get their head, never mind, they can get this fixed. All right. We have some other issues as well. We are constantly barraged with complaints that we are allowing new development in our city. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because we do a good job and they don't. That's the reason people want to be in the city of Mount Juliet. Now, what they've got going for them is they got some of the best schools in the state of Tennessee, possibly in the nation. Our school teachers, you know, the administration, they do a good job. They have to be funded, and I get that. That attracts people here. They come to our city because we can provide infrastructure that the county can't. Now, though, the people have figured it out that we have an urban growth boundary that we're supposed to be in charge of, and they have figured out that when the city of Mount Juliet says no, then they turn around and go to the county government, the County Planning Commission, and the County Planning Commission goes, oh yeah, it's okay. It's kind of the difference saying, okay, well, I'm gonna go to Dad, but if Dad says no, I'm gonna go to the mom and see if I can't get a different answer. Now we got 2 separate subdivisions that have been brought in and just plumped down right in the middle of our city that we're going to be responsible for at some mutual aid. We're going to wind up providing some services for, but we're not going to get into the revenue that would normally come. So it directly taxes our taxpayers. The county allowed them after we told them no. So I have asked Mr. Marchetti, and we're going to be looking, I got one of them looks. I've asked Mr. Marchetti to look into the legal side of this as to what we might be able to do to stop Wilson County Planning Commission and the Wilson County government from forcing us to take on residents that they put in our space without us being able to make sure that the infrastructure is in place for them to do that. So I hope you'll support me on that. If you see a county commissioner, ask them about it. If they've been sitting up there for a long time and they haven't done anything about it, vote against them, get them out. But it's time we start taking some proactive measures in our city to make sure that we're taken care of down here and the county commission is not running over us. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I was going to ask you for an update if you didn't provide one on the meeting, but I think you summed it up there very well. Next up is Commissioner Juliet.
Good afternoon. First of all, my condolences to Mr. Martin and his family, and Art's family as well. It's an honor to be a part of this family up here, and I'm sorry I wasn't there either. I was actually out of town, but of course I sent you my message as well. So also would like to pray for the families overseas, whether if that's the families that are actually on the border trying to leave, or just trying to be there to fight for their freedom. So I'll tell you tonight, actually before this meeting, we were honored with Mr. Jeff Pearson. He actually did a nice presentation of of the flag. And I actually have my youngest daughter here tonight, soon to be 14. It was just kind of ironic because, of course, the message behind that flag means so much to everyone. Of course, when you have a country like the Ukraine, of course, they are very patriotic over there. And I think every country has citizens like we have here in the United States. But it was just something that my daughter had messaged me about how, they need to teach that in our schools, about the meaning of the flag. And it even hit her a little bit. And I'll tell you, it's just one of those messages I think that we're all blessed to have. I'm very patriotic. I never served in the military, but I think every man and woman that has ever served, from our first responders to the men and women that are fighting for our freedom. And my family knows that anytime they see a man or woman in uniform, they know to go thank them. And I think that's something that we all need to remember, the freedoms that we do have. Obviously, a week and a ago ago, our city put on an awesome father-daughter dance. I was able to go there with Vice Mayor and his daughters, and it was an honor, folks. I'll tell you, with COVID a year and a half ago, I was unable to take my daughter the last time to the father-daughter dance in elementary, and I was honored to be a part of that. And also, we had some other Andy and his daughter was there as well, so it was nice to see some of the the other city officials there as well. But for me, it was just, another opportunity to cherish our freedom, cherish our families. And thank you for the Parks Board that, did all the hard work in getting that set up. I can really mirror with Commissioner Hefner with the flooding. These past storms, I gotten a lot of calls. I drove around a lot of our neighborhoods to go cleaning off our drains. Even though our city workers do a great job at sweeping the streets, but of course, our neighbors tend to still dealing with some of the leaves. So those are backing up. So we're doing our best to take care of that. But with our city workers, man, I'll tell you, they do a great job with all that debris that came down the roads. It was a mess. Obviously, that's a hazard for our first responders as they're rushing into our neighborhoods. Piles of gravel, rock, and everything else that's coming down. Reaching out to our city workers, the response time is amazing. Looking forward to working with our IT team on a new app that's going to be rolling out. I know there's still some trial out there, so I'm looking forward to the immediate responses as well, real-time data. Mr. Camp, thank you for coming out here tonight. Greatly appreciate all the input. This board up here is sat down with Mayor Hutto and discussed a lot of our concerns. Our fire department has kept us in the loop up here on some next steps. This board up here has spent a lot of hours trying to make sure that this city is protected. That's one of the reasons why I volunteered to sit in this role, and looking forward to running for election this fall, is because our first responders. That is one of the first things that I cherished about this community when I moved here. And then the second part was making sure that we have events for our students to also participate in the city versus them going out of the city. So I think if we've got the top-notch first responders, we need to be able to have that same option for our kids to be here, to be in a safe environment. So thank you, sir, for your continued efforts. The last thing is, listen, it's a blessing up here. I mean, it really is, to get to know family members of our community that reach out to us, whether if they're dealing with the tornadoes of the storms, the high winds, the floodings, being able to direct them in the right direction. My phone is always on. I'm taking calls 24/7. It's an honor to serve our community. I don't care if you're in my district or not. I just want to get to know more about the city, know more about you and your family and what's going on and how I can help you. So please continue to bring the calls in. Would love to get a chance to meet you. Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'll start out by saying, please remember the people that are in the Ukraine that they're caught in something that I don't believe that they anticipated at all there. Maybe a year ago, looking back, and probably like a lot of us had their minds on the pandemic and other things, and now they're being invaded. So, please remember them in your prayers. I want to send my condolences to former Commissioner Giles, who lost his mother, and of course our city manager, who lost his mother, just within a few days of each other. Mamas are special, and we have to all cherish every minute that we have with them. But you did a wonderful job there at the funeral, and it was a difficult situation, and you handled it like a champ. So appreciate everything you do and your leadership in this city. And I also just want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for having me out for the State of the City address. Really had a good time delivering the address. When you're talking about Mount Juliet, it's actually it's not hard to speak for about 30 or 40 minutes about the city. So it's a lot of good stuff going on here. The challenges is with this city is trying to carve it down into that time frame. Sometimes I got somebody called me out online, and they said, when I was commented on our first month where we'd received over $2 million in sales tax for the month. And, I had something to say to that. I said, "You're just bragging." And I was like, well, maybe a little, but you got to understand what $2 million, what that represents to you as a citizen. When it comes to sales tax, when you buy something, you're going to pay it here or you're going to pay it in another city. And it's the same amount of money pretty much anywhere you go in the state of Tennessee. And if you take our sales tax in that, if we didn't have that sales tax, you could take your property tax and multiply it by 10. And that's about the number we're looking at that it would take to replace that sales tax. So every time we get sales tax in here, just look at it this way. This is keeping your costs down. I know for me and my house, it's $75 a year for property tax. There's plenty of places in town you can't even take a family of 4 out for dinner on $75 these days. And that pays for all the services out of my pocket that's not coming from sales tax. The only thing I'm paying above that is $75 a year to this city. For the police department that we're getting, for the fire department, it's all covered on that. Public Works, all of that is captured on that general fund on this. So I don't say so much that we're bragging about that, but we are very pleased with the way our businesses have thrived through the challenges that we've seen, and it's starting to reflect on it. And every dollar that and I think Commissioner Hefner pointed out, every dollar that's spent inside the city that's captured in sales tax, the equal amount is going to the school system on there. It's the easiest thing you can do to support your city and our school systems is to shop here locally in Mount Juliet. Switching gears, there's been a lot said about WEMA and the conditions that we find ourselves in. It was brought to my attention yesterday that we're now, not only are we seeing routine closures of at least a couple of stations throughout the county. Yesterday is the first time, I believe, this year it's happened, but the staffing inside the city was cut by 1/3. So the station behind the city the staffing was cut in half on that. And, you say, well, you got 2 ambulances out here, but if you have a rescue event or something, that takes this station offline, and now the ambulance has to come from somewhere else. So you're taking 2 stations off the line for one event like that, and you're already down 2 other stations. And there's been a lot said about the comments that were made at that meeting, and there's some quotes, and they're all accurate. I'll say this, that for the month of January, only 35% of that month of January was the county fully staffed. And when you look at the month of February, it gets even worse. The county was staffed 10%. 10% of the time they were fully staffed for the month of February. The rates may adjust a little bit depending on how the staffing was today, but the only way I'm going to know what level of staffing we had here is to go find it somewhere on Facebook. That's where we're at in terms of communication. So I've got before the Board of Commissioners here tonight a resolution that was put together after yesterday. I had a call with the county mayor, and we're just at the point now where we're starting to really fear for the impact here at the city. And you say these other 2 stations are not near the city of Mount Juliet necessarily, but when they have a call there, where do those ambulances come from? They come from the stations surrounding the city. When there's a call for there, where does that ambulance respond from? Ambulance that responds from inside this city. So when you go down on one side of this county, the response is coming from this side of the county to make it up. And they're having to travel even further to get back into service. And we're continuing to see it. Our own fire department is reporting that 2 out of 3 calls are overlapping. That's just for the city limits, what's going on in the city limits with our fire department. When you look at the number of people that they're down and the number of people that have applied, it's a safe statement to say the equivalent of the Mount Juliet Fire Department is looking for another job in WEMA. That is a safe statement to make. And I have here a resolution before the board. It's not on the agenda. This was put together today. I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules and vote on this. And what this calls for is for the city to work on an interlocal agreement to work with the county. And this is the proposal that I presented to the county mayor yesterday, subject to approval by this board and this agreement. But that was for the county to provide us 2 ambulances with an option for a third one when we open the 3rd station, and allow us to staff that ambulance and run it for the citizens of Mount Juliet. For Wilson County to continue to do the dispatching and to provide a medical director and to continue to collect the revenue and split the revenue 50-50 with the city of Mount Juliet. And that's the agreement I'm going to ask that we work for to try to accomplish within the city so that we can guarantee that the staffing is available inside the city limits and that when you call 911, that there'll be an ambulance available. And with that, I'm going to conclude my comments and recognize our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Commissioners, and everybody in attendance tonight and those watching from home. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Board of Commissioners, the staff, and the citizens of Mount Juliet, which extends me as one big family, to all the outpourings of support and prayer given to me and my family. I'd lost loved ones in my life. Until you lose your mom or dad, it's just totally different. And got me and my family through a very tough time. Of course, having my wife there was absolutely phenomenal. She's my rock. And so for everybody that reached out to me, thank you. And thank you for doing the same, because I'd actually spoken to Commissioner Giles the day of when we had taken my mom to the hospital in an EMS vehicle. And little I know, a few days later, he'd lose his mom as well. So embrace your moms and dads and love them, because you only get one of each. And I miss mine dearly. So I want to thank this elected body and my extended family here at City Hall and all our teams and the citizens, because that is my family. I've spent the last 33 years of my life in the city, and this is my family, so much so that we moved my mom's services to Mount Juliet. They live in East Nashville. And so thank you. And for this Board of Commission that went above and beyond, there's some things they did for me and my family in particular that was special. And thank you. That means the world to me. So I also want to comment on something that the Vice Mayor said. I really appreciate those comments. It means a lot to me, because I have been fortunate enough to be provided the tools that I need to what I feel like properly run a city. And most importantly, the resources you all have provided us and our team the last few years is phenomenal. And I'd like to thank my fellow team members, because it is one big team, that I can't do what I do without you, without this team of employees and coworkers around me, and without the citizens, because they let us know. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that is who we work for, and we want to be good stewards of their resources. In particular, I know that when the mayor put the message out about the $2 million sales tax, for our city, that's absolutely phenomenal, because we generate about $1 million a year in property taxes and probably about a $60 million budget. Everything else comes through sales taxes and other things. And I know without a doubt, this city commission has set aside $40 million to go towards engineering, right-of-way, environmental design, and things of that nature to improve state roads, which is not really the responsibility of the city of Mount Juliet, but they put their money where their mouth is, because they understand, and it will take years because those processes and projects take a long time. But I'm very proud of that. And for somebody that served here a long time, I feel like I should make that known. A big percentage of the sales tax we get goes towards projects that aren't even really city related. All the growth that surrounds the city limits of Mount Juliet's about 30 square miles. So in the entire county, anywhere you see growth, we'll be facing a lot of that traffic as well, because it's a gateway to get into 40 and other places that people travel. So if you've been out in the county, you've seen a lot of growth out there. So the city also takes on that growth as well when it traverses through, for example, the bridge up here. I believe Mr. Barlow is about an $8 million bridge. The city paid half of that. The state paid the other half. Well, as we all know, lots of people use that bridge beyond just City of Mount Juliet residents. So thank you to our Board of Commissioners and our citizens for stepping up and allowing us to do that. Before you, elected body, you'll see some very fluorescent vests. The reason you have those is it's called all hands on deck here in the city of Mount Juliet. So when there's a natural disaster, normally some of the first people to respond is our elected body because they're coming out into their districts. And so usually every time we get out here, I would see them either unvest or in a vest that we'd presented them before that really wasn't proper. And so it's important now, and little they realize is the reason we've got them those is they'll become direct targets of citizens that will approach them asking for assistance. And that's right, it's Teflon. So that's meant to be a good thing, is they love the people they serve. They get out here, anybody that's worked out here, public works, police and fire, parks, city beautiful, you name it. You've seen them out there helping us, pulling limbs out of the road, helping people out of houses, you name it. So they are a part of our emergency response team. So I thought if they're going to have that to keep them OSHA and TOSHA protected, we're going to get them the proper gear. So thank you each for what you do when you go out there and do those things along with our citizens. And lastly, I want to thank these 3 young men on the front row over here. I think they're here with Scouts, and we want to thank you because we deal with Scouts a lot with Eagle Scout projects and other things, what you do. So on behalf of the commissioners, we have just a little small token of our appreciation for you coming out tonight. But again, I'll end on this. Thank you all because y'all have meant the world to me, and you'll continue to do so going forward because it's a long process. I don't know if you ever get over it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager. All right, with that, we'll move to the business portion of our agenda. Being in unfinished business, I will make a motion at this point to suspend the rules for consideration of a resolution. We have a second. Any discussion on this? All right, all in favor of suspending the rules, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries. I have our regular rules suspended for the introduction of a resolution. I'll read the header. A resolution to instruct the city manager or his designees to begin negotiation to obtain an interlocal agreement with Wilson County for the purposes of addressing ambulance service in the city limits of Mount Juliet. Have a motion and a second. The item is on the table for discussion. Any questions or comments on this? I'll just say this is pretty much like I described it in my comments earlier. It just signifies some of the challenges that we face. And it's just got an initial framework in there with 4 bullet points on it for consideration. And this calls for that interlocal agreement to be negotiated and brought back to this board for approval. Commissioner Hefner.
I have one question. Is there an end date or is it just open-ended?
There's not an end date on that, but we can definitely assign an end date. But we are at the same time to do a negotiation dependent upon the other group. But if I'm almost of the opinion, if we don't get any participation, I don't think that'll be the problem. We put our own together and just take it to the EMA ourselves.
Thank you.
So is there an end date that you would prefer at this point? Because I'm to the point now where I've seen too many contracts without end dates that we wound up going into oblivion with. So I would like to set a date if we could to say, to bring it back to us by such a date.
I'd like to see it back at the next meeting myself.
Sounds good. That would be my amendment.
Sounds good to me.
We'll make a motion for that, Dad.
Yeah, that's my amendment. So
Second. All right.
yeah, I want to make sure they get that.
All right. We'll amend the resolution to include the agreement to be returned to us at the next regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. Is that captured okay?
Yes.
All right. Any questions, discussions on the amendment? All right, please signify by saying aye on the
Aye.
in favor of the amendment.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. All right, we're back on the resolution as once amended. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? All right, all in favor of the resolution as once amended, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries with a unanimous vote on that. So that has passed. And with that, I'll just say, if there's no objection, we'll go back into regular session. Hearing no objections, we'll go back into regular session and pick back up at our unfinished business. Consent items, I'll read these. We have 3 for the record here. I'll read them, which is 8.1, an ordinance to amend the plan unit development known as Paddocks of Mount Juliet, property being on Pleasant Grove Road, map 76, parcel 37.01, Wilson County, Tennessee. Item number 8.3, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget ordinance 2021-19 to appropriate funds for 3 new transportation projects that were recently awarded grant funding. And 8.4, an ordinance of the city of Mount Juliet to amend the city code chapter 14, health and sanitation, to remove the reference to support the 2012 International Building Code and International Fire Code and replace with support the current edition of the International Building Code and International Fire Code. Have a motion to approve, and I heard a second on the 3 items on consent. Any questions, comments on those? All in favor of the 3 items, 8.1, 8.2, and 8.4, 8.1, 8.3, and 8.4, please signify by saying aye. Any objections or any nay votes? And hearing none, those carry. Our next item will be 8.2, which is the request of Commissioner Hefner, which will move from consent. I'll read that for the record. 8.2, an ordinance of the city of Mount Juliet to amend the city code to fee schedules for the building department, chapter 26, article 7, building construction, plans review, and inspection fees, to remove the fee schedule and to have these available online and in the building department, to update the building valuation data to the February 2021 fee schedule and approve that this schedule be updated in concurrence when amended by the International Code Council. Have a motion. I heard a second on that. Questions or comments on it? I assume, Commissioner Hefner, you have one.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the fee schedule. Number 2, and this is as it relates to the commercial construction fees, permitting fees. The way that it's currently written and as it was proposed, 100,000 square feet and greater would be at 15 cents. What I would like to propose as far as an amendment, that 100,001 to 200,000 square feet is 15 cents, and everything above 200,001 is dropped to 11 cents.
Okay.
Sure. So 100,001 to 200,000 square feet, we're going to set the rate to 15 cents. And then from 200,001 and greater would be 11 cents.
All right. And Commissioner Trevette, second. The item is on the floor for discussion. Any questions, comments on that? All right. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Back on the ordinance as once amended. Any other questions or comments on it? All in favor of the ordinance as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. The ordinance has passed on second and final reading. Next item on our unfinished business is Resolution 9.1, a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee and Duncan Associates for the completion of a fair share fee rate study and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Motion.
Have a motion. I hear a second on that. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Vice Mayor.
There is a section in here. First of all, and I think, is it Mr. Barlow? Shane, are you? I didn't know he was actually working with this company to get the contract ready.
Okay. Here he comes. You're waiting on Barlow. Did you have something to comment before he gets here? Or?
I do. There's actually going to be an amendment to the SOW, to the contract.
Okay.
So the increase in scope, Vice Mayor, appreciate you pointing out that the original SOW only included roadways. So I went back with Andy Barlow and discussed this with Duncan and Associates and requested they increase the scope to go beyond roads and to include parks, general government facilities such as police, fire protection, city administration, public works buildings, and capital equipment. So the increase in scope has been, is defined there. With that, does come an additional fee for the agreement or for the SOW. And the new fee to include those other scope items is $69,000. The original, I believe, was
36.
48,000.
So is that additional 60,000 or raising the 48 to 69,000?
Raising the 48 to 69.
Okay. Thank you.
So a total of 69.
Right. And did you have anything else, Commissioner?
Yeah, so really the main purpose of this fair share fee is for I don't know, Vice Mayor can probably correct me on this, but over a decade, we've been using a $2,500 magical number. Not really sure where it came from, but that's something that we've been using as PUDs have been coming through as a voluntary fee. What I want to do, what I'm hoping to accomplish with this study is we have something substantial behind the number. So bring an outside consultant in to do the analysis, to do the review, to do the costs. At least we're making an informed decision, and we can back up those numbers if a developer calls us to the mat and says, where are you coming up with those numbers? So right now, we really don't have a good response to that. So this is an exercise in just putting together facts and being able to stand by them when we're asked, where do the numbers come from? This is a matter of policy. So the numbers can come back and we can elect to use them as part of our PUD process or not. This is just merely a baseline to start from. So
Some defensible numbers.
some defensible numbers, exactly.
And Vice Mayor?
And I don't have a problem with this. Commissioner Hefner and I had a conversation the other day. We were talking about where the 2,500 came from, and it was actually a number that was just dreamed up at one time.
From
And
Willoughby
Willoughby
Started
Station.
at Willoughby Station
Correct.
at South Green Hill Road widening.
The PUD agreements that we have been recently that we've been looking at were actually based on numbers on off-site and on-site calculations of cost that we did not want the taxpayers to absorb. That's what it all boiled down to. We want the development to actually pay the cost. Unfortunately, sometimes the developments get hit with paying the cost of 100% when they're not responsible for 100% of the growth of those. So that's where these companies get to come in and start doing their work. So that's the reason I completely agree with this. Now, I was looking, I guess my question in this case is this contract that I'm looking at here, is that negotiable? Or are they saying this is what you're going to pay us and that's it?
We, as far as all professional service agreements, we go based on estimates. We'll take some other cities, take a look at review and see what they might have paid. And so for all that, it's, you don't really, you don't go low bid on professional services, I'll say. We're prohibited from doing that actually. But I did check with Brentwood to see what their scope was, what their fees were, very comparable. Especially considering that their study was done, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So considering inflationary costs to it, we've actually been in discussion with Duncan Associates for 9 months, probably, as far as trying to get them under contract, working through some of our legal challenges that we have on this matter. And so they've not strayed from the cost. So I think
I will point out when I'm looking at this, where it says public draft and ordinance amendments. Ms. Luckett does most of that stuff for us here at the city of Mount Juliet, and I think she would be interested to know that they're going to do it for a period of 90 days, and they get paid $9,500 to do what you do, just within the scope of your salary. So
She's worth every penny.
yes, she is, isn't she? Yeah. And then they want to be paid, so that's $9,500, and then an additional $7,000 for showing up to public meetings. I mean, Look, I don't want to be cheap here. Yeah, I do. I've been around Kenny Martin long enough. I am going to be cheap. But that's $16,500 that we're paying them to do something that we've got staff on site that already does. I don't see that. I mean, it's a little extraordinary.
One thing I'd note, Vice Mayor, that was actually a holdover from the prior agreement when we were going through, wanting to see just the roadway portion to ordinance, because we're backing up from that process and going just straight to more of a policy level document of trying to identify the cost and substantiate the cost. So what you're referring to is actually on packet page 56. That one's actually been superseded by the added agreement on packet page 48. So I would note the change. So packet page 48 actually has your budget on there, the public meetings, et cetera, draft ordinance, because we're not going to do an ordinance out of this. It's more than likely going to be,
Well,
has to be a resolution.
there's another portion of this that myself and Mr. Hefner, Commissioner Hefner, were talking about, and that was that what we're talking about here is drafting and receiving a guideline,
Mhm.
not an
That's
ordinance.
correct. That's correct.
So there should be no ordinances or ordinance amendments involved in this whatsoever. Is that
Uh,
correct?
That's correct. So
Okay.
that was a holdover from the prior agreement, and that needs to be stricken.
Okay, so if we could take that out of there, I don't want to take it out of the contract at this point, but how do we do that, Mr. Marquetti?
There's a couple of three things in this that need to be changed after talking with Mr. Barlow today. In fact, the contract and the scope still focuses on roads, but as Commissioner Hefner said, it's going to be much more comprehensive than that. So what I'm looking for, and I think what you're looking for, is a general scope of what this is going to be and the price of not to exceed $69,000. And we may come in under that, no promises, but it's going to be comprehensive and complete as a guideline for everyone.
I will add to that if we can add subject to legal approval, the signing of the contract.
So basically what we're talking about here at this point is that it's going to be a conditional approval from us. Is that correct? Conditioned on,
Legal approval.
yeah, legal
Yes.
approval.
So,
So there
And
needs
we're
to be a-
close, so I'm not talking months and months.
so I've got two things here, subject to legal approval and not to exceed 69K.
Correct. Those would actually, if you want, I'll go include those amendments to this. Okay. Sure. So those would be my amendments to.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to add subject to a legal approval and not to exceed $69,000 in cost.
Second.
That's all right. So we have the amendment on the floor. Any discussion, questions, comments on the amendment to the ordinance? Excuse me, resolution? All right. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That amendment carries. We're back on the resolution as once amended. Any other questions or comments on it? Are we ready to vote? All in favor of the resolution as once amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries with a 5-0 vote. And with that, we have concluded our unfinished business, and we'll move to our new business portion of the agenda. Our first item is 11-1, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, ordinance 2021-19 to transfer funds for signal projects within the capital projects fund. Have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, or discussion on this? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion, or excuse me, that ordinance carries as presented on first reading. 11-2, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, ordinance 2021-19 to accept insurance proceeds and to appropriate funds for the replacement of a police vehicle. Have a motion and a second. The item is on the table. Questions or comments? All in favor of 11-2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously on first reading. 11-3, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, ordinance 2021-19 to accept insurance proceeds and appropriate funds for the repair of Public Works shed. Have a motion and a second to get that shed repaired. It's on the It's on the table. Any comments, questions, or it sounds so sophisticated, doesn't it? Our shed.
We don't want codes that start hitting us, right?
She should, yeah. Any questions or comments on this? All in favor of repairing the shed, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That carries. All three items carried unanimously on first reading, I believe. So we'll move to our resolutions. We have 4 resolutions here. A resolution approving the award of the construction contract for the Providence Parkway traffic signal installation project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Have a motion and a second. The item is on the floor. Any questions, comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. The second one is a resolution of the City of Mount Juliet Board of Commissioners requesting that the Wilson County Mayor reconstitute and reconvene the Wilson County Coordinating Committee. Have a motion and a second. Vice Mayor, would you like the floor?
Please. You heard my comments earlier about how the planning commission, I'm assuming the planning commission and maybe the county commission, they work in a different process than we do. But during the course of them doing their duties, they have taken projects that were within our urban growth boundary and approved those projects without input from our staff or our planning commission. A couple of different times that they've done this. We don't seem to have any communication, even though this was brought up to our county mayor by me actually several years ago, that we did not have communication between the two. We've got a county commissioner who sits on our city commission, and for whatever reason, we still don't know anything about what they're doing. Our planning commission, excuse me. So I'm not sure whether she hasn't shared or whether it wasn't shared to her to give to us. I'm not sure where this comes from, but we have got to have some rules, and those rules have got to be put down. And the only way to do that is to reconvene this committee and have conversations about what those rules are and how we're going to adhere to those rules on our part and their part. So that's the reason for this. We're asking him to convene the urban growth boundary group or so that we can have discussions between the county, city of Lebanon, city of Watertown, and ourselves as to how we're going to continue forward. And hopefully they will give us the due respect to hear us and hopefully come to some agreements as to how we can do this in a civilized manner, which has not been the case in the past.
Commissioner Hefner.
I'd like to add to that. It's extremely frustrating for me. I sit on the planning commission, specifically Canebrake. It came in as one of the neighborhoods. When Canebrake came in, it met all of our neighborhood points. Unfortunately, it didn't meet a lot of our city requirements as far as design standards, street standards, sidewalk standards. So it's frustrating that as a planning commissioner, you have to vote. It's a black and white. It doesn't meet or not. The design standards are subpar to the city standards, and I would like to see this resolved. I'd like to see a fix put in place because it's frustrating to me to see projects like Canebrake come through and we have to approve these. I tried to stop Canebrake, but was near threatened by a lawsuit. So that was unfortunate, but that's the fact of the matter. So looking forward to seeing some resolution to this and some changes made. So thank you.
Any other comments? I'll just add this is the appropriate first steps to be taking in this. I'll commend the vice mayor for taking the reins on this one and running with it. This is something from what I understand, Wilson County is a bit of an outlier in the state for the way our urban growth boundary is managed. So this is a good opportunity to sit down and work some of these things out. All right. All in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. A resolution approving the Tesla supercharger agreement and authorize the city manager to sign. All right, well, it's on the floor. I would like to point out that we are not paying Tesla any money as part of this agreement. We're not subsidizing Tesla, but we are apparently welcoming Tesla. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Gino too, who's been working close with me on this. For the last several years since Cheddar's come to town, we've been leasing an old cul-de-sac, which is a right-of-way easement, I guess, that we maintain. In years past, we would have given those away. I'm glad we didn't give this one away. It's unlikely it'll ever open again, but we maintained it. So when Cheddar's come to town, they were using as overflow parking. They were paying us about $600 a year. They made the upgrades to it, no cost to the city. They no longer need it. We've been trying to bring some charging stations to Mount Juliet, like what you're saying, across the state, across the country. Tesla had reached out to us. They were looking at this site. At first, it wasn't available because at the time Cheddar's was using it. We found them another site in the Providence area. They were and they were working on that. I reached back out to them once Cheddar's decided they were going to renew their lease. And with Gino's hard effort and works back and forth redlining the lease proposals, they're looking to rent this location and make modifications at their expense to the city for $12,000 a year. So basically, we were not utilizing it. It was just overflow parking, as it would continue to be. What's good about this is if anybody that's traveling down I-40, they'll be notified if you're a Tesla owner to basically pop up on your screen that there's a charging location ahead. What we see out of it is sort of a double benefit. For one is we'll gain $12,000 for something we're not currently utilizing. For two is anybody that gets off that exit and decides to charge their vehicle will hopefully patronize some of the businesses in the area. And Gino, you might have more to add about the lease, but Gino helped me bargain with them a little bit more, and we got a little bit more out of them.
He covered it. And the fact that our city recorder has just bought a Tesla has nothing to do with this. Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah,
for the record.
She wasn't involved with the
As a matter of fact,
negotiation.
she said she probably would not need
Didn't
it.
even know it was happening.
She's got her own Tesla charging station at her home.
Does she need to recuse herself
That's
from
right.
taking
No,
minutes?
she doesn't get to vote.
That's right.
She knew nothing about this.
Quick question.
Commissioner Hefner.
Quick question. I think I know the answer to this. Is this just for Tesla vehicles, or is this for any electric
This
vehicle?
particular testing.
I think it's just Tesla goodies.
Oh yeah, like the iPhones
Proprietary.
go
plug.
obsolete after a while.
But our hope is for folks that's got electric vehicles out there. You know, Cracker Barrel had a couple of these a few years back. The hardware and all got outdated, so they ended up pulling them because they weren't being utilized at the time. We see a little bit of a trend. A lot of folks are reaching out to us. Matter of fact, with a train station, we're talking about possibly trying to put some there. So I think you'll probably see additional manufacturers in the future. What I love about this is they'll be renting it, the property from us, and we can apply that toward other uses as the city elected body sees fit. It's definitely a win-win for us.
Vice Mayor.
Ms. Mullally had her hand up. If you go to her first, please.
Sorry, I did not see you.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to ask for clarification. This property, the city now owns it?
We've owned it. It
Okay.
used to be the old Pleasant Grove Road.
Right.
When it came out on Mount Juliet Road, and when we worked with TDOT and the state, and we made the modifications to Mount Juliet Road and the I-40 interchange, that went away. The difference is this time, instead of giving it up to the two adjoining property owners, we maintained it. It was a dead-end cul-de-sac that dead-ended. So I think it's going to help with the ingress egress there as well, because they're going to have a one-way out.
Mhm.
So if you're leaving Cheddar's in the future, right now, you're in a dead-end sort of no man's land. You'll be able to loop back out. So we already own the property. We'll continue to maintain the property. They'll just want to establish a long-time lease with the city. So
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I'm curious, and this may be completely off topic. Actually, it is completely off topic, but we have what's called the impact tax or not, what do they call it? Improve Act, I'm sorry, in the state of Tennessee, where there's a gas tax. How is that applied to electric vehicles?
Believe it is.
So an electric vehicle pays no Improve Act money. That's, well, no, they don't buy gas. That's my point. So
Yeah, I know. They thank you for paying for those roads, though.
yeah, right. Yeah. So they can drive on it.
It's similar
Marty
to
McFly.
bicycles and anything else on the road that doesn't purchase gas. So they're not paying taxes either.
I've never seen a golf cart on the interstate, Sheila. I'm sorry. That's never.
I mean, there's some
Yeah.
stuff batted around. I guess the other states are starting to introduce a mileage tax to try to capture some of that, but that is not part of the city's purview anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was just curious. And Sheila, to justify your point, I actually did arrest a lady one time out of a golf cart on West Main Street in the city of Lebanon. So, yes, it was DUI, by the way.
George Jones.
Were there any other questions or comments on this? All right, all in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I guess Tesla is one step closer to a presence inside the city of Mount Juliet.
You can also.
Our last item is a resolution approving task order number 1 for a previously approved master agreement between the city of Mount Juliet, Tennessee and Alfred Benesch and Company for services related to on-call roadway engineering services and authorize the mayor to sign the task order. Have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, discussions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Our next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion?
Motion.
A motion. I heard a second. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. And we are adjourned.
Dadgummit, will you